guys, Joette with ballooncoach.com, and today is one of our lunch and learns with Courtney Herman, and I am so excited that Courtney from Courtney Lynette Creative Co. is going to share with us about planning for a website that pops and how to turn those browsers into people who are going to purchase from you. So what I want you guys to do is grab out a pen and pencil to take some notes. We'll also give you the notes in the replay for you to be able to follow along with afterwards to take action on the things that Courtney shares. And I am so glad that Sarah Meyer with the Bright Balloon podcast introduced me to you, because I always love for balloon professionals to have resources that they can turn to when they need help with online presence, especially because it's one of those things that us as artists and creatives, we think things should look one way and we don't realize all the mechanics and the way that things really can work best for our clients, for those browsers to then actually purchase. So Courtney, I'll let you take it away and share your content. And thanks to everybody who's joining us live. Share your name and where you're joining us from in the comments. And then as we go through the presentation, if you have questions for Courtney, you can either open up your mic and ask or type it into the chat, and I'll be glad to be your voice.
Yeah, perfect. Well, hi everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. I love working with balloon people. It's one of my favorite sites to do because it's just fun and colorful, and who doesn't love that? But yeah, today, like Joette said, we're going to talk about websites. I know this is kind of a hot topic, or can feel like a hot topic, of like whether we should have it, whether we should not have it, that type of stuff. So yes, please feel free to ask questions and stop me along the way. Please also ignore my tendency to get out of breath, as I'm 6 months pregnant, and that's just what happens. I can't speak without feeling like I've ran a marathon. So ignore it. I'm perfectly fine.
Feel free to pause as you need.
Okay.
Exciting time.
Yes. And most of you probably understand what I mean by that. So we're going to talk about how to prepare your balloon business for a website today. I know this is a piece of the process that sometimes feels a little bit scary, or people get stuck in this spot because there is work that goes into preparing for a site, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're working with a professional designer like myself. So these are kind of just my tips to help you prepare, maybe even get you in the mindset of moving forward and doing a site and getting that together, or updating your current site that you have, because that's also important, is to keep it updated. So a little bit about myself. My name is Courtney. Obviously, like she said, my company is Courtney Lynette Creative Co. I have been in the event space for a really long time. So what I started out doing is calligraphy and laser cut and stationery and all that stuff. So I was doing that for over 12 years under Poppy Jack Shop. And then as I had my first daughter and things were changing, I knew I just needed a little bit of change in pace, what I was doing, all that stuff. So that's where web and design and branding came in. And I knew when I started that I really wanted to work with event professionals. I don't strictly work with event professionals. I would say 90% of my clients, though, are event professionals. The reason I do that the reason I like to do that is because I have been exactly in your shoes. I know very much what it looks like to work with clients in this space. I know what the user experience looks like. I know what clients are looking for on your site. So it's just a kind of a unique conversation that we get to have, where I can understand what you're talking about. I know balloon lingo. I know what an install means. I know what columns and arches and garlands and all those things are. So that's why a lot of times people will come to me and have had a less than stellar experience with another designer or something like that, where they just say, they didn't quite understand what I needed, or they didn't quite understand what I was looking for. And hopefully that would not be the case with me, because like I said, I really do understand what that looks like. So today we're going to just talk about, like I said, what makes a great balloon website specifically. This is where I would love any questions to come in. If you have specific questions about like what you would like, what you want included on your site, or questions about pricing, stuff like that, whatever you want. And then we'll obviously hopefully give you a little bit of confidence to start or revamp your site. And then I have a checklist, like a downloadable checklist that you can have at the end that there's a little QR code. I think, Joette, you'll send out this presentation too for people to access. So everything is clickable on here too for you to access once we get there. So why your website matters. This is my initial plea to you to have a website. So in this day and age, a lot of times people think social media is it. Like that's all they need. That's all I need to run my business, which has been true. And I'm not saying that that cannot be the case. What I am saying is it's not enough and it won't ever be. There are people who are not on social media, and you're seeing that a lot more and more that people are leaving social media, or not spending as much time on it, those types of things. And your website is really going to be your home away from all the noise. It's going to show up when people are Googling. If you just have an Instagram or a Facebook, that may not show up in results when somebody's Googling. If they don't have an Instagram account, they're not able to see all of your Instagram content, those types of things. So a website really is really, really important over social media. It also helps to establish customer trust. Um, when you have a website, what you are communicating is that you have invested in your business. You are a trustworthy source that is a legitimate business and you are running and you know what you're doing. You can showcase work, you can showcase testimonials, all of that stuff. Not that I'm saying that you can't do that on social media, but think about how many scams and all that stuff go around on social media that you're like, is this a real person? Is this not a real person? I'm not sure. Especially with balloons, this is a high ticket item. This is something that people are paying a lot of money for. They don't want to just get in, excuse the metaphor, but get into bed with somebody that they don't know, if this is are you for sure going to show up at my event? These events are really, really important to these people. It's a wedding, it's a party, it's whatever it is. So you want to establish that trust, and a website is that first step to doing that. It also saves you time. This is something I hear a lot where people think, like it's just easier. I just do everything through DMs, or I do that. And really you're ending up answering the same questions over and over and over again in your DMs. You don't have a structure in place of how to get people from A to Z, from interest to booking, those types of things. And so really yes, it does take time to set up a site and to get it right. But in the long run, it's going to be saving you time because you have your processes in place and your customer is trusting that this is a well thought out professional experience that they're investing their money in. And then it's also working for you 24/7, even when you're not. So social media is great. And yes, there's a piece of it that is kind of working for you, but we all know the algorithm stinks. It doesn't like anyone. You may not be showing up, or you may not have time to be doing it. I am the same way. I'm a small business owner as well. I barely have time to keep my Instagram updated. And when I do, it's very random. Like I am not necessarily doing the best job of like selling myself on Instagram, that stuff. But my site is working for me even when I'm doing a million other things because it has all of my sales techniques on there. You're also reaching a totally different audience. Instagram is maybe just somebody looking for inspiration. It's maybe somebody saving, kind of like Pinterest, like saving some ideas, those types of things. Someone who's landing on your website is what's considered a warm lead. They're already very interested in your service. Now it's time to sell your service. I'm not in a bad way or a salesy way, but be giving all of your information in one spot where they can digest it and understand what it is. Any questions so far, Joette, that I need to stop for?
Nope, we're good. And it's such great information because so many people, I think social media is the way to go. And I have seen many people in our programs and friends who've actually lost
Yeah,
access to their social media. And then overnight, they're stuck if they don't have that website.
exactly. Yeah, that's another huge part is you don't own social media. You have no control over if it's here today, gone tomorrow. The internet has been around for a lot longer. It's survived a lot of different things. So I don't think you need to worry about the internet going away. But we saw all with the TikTok stuff and all of that stuff happening where it's like that's the threatening of your business. And for a lot of us, like that's a big piece of our income as for our families and for, what bills we have to pay and all that stuff. So putting it in somebody else's hands is very, very scary if you think about it. And yes, it can be taken away in a second from a one bad password leak, really, which is the
Right.
one.
If
Okay.
he was involved,
Sorry. My thing is the audio on it. Let me see if I can. Oh man, I didn't know I was going to do that.
if he was involved,
Okay, you guys, this is so funny. When I screen recorded this, I was listening to this podcast and it's recorded the audio on the podcast. It's like a crime podcast. And I didn't know that I was putting the audio on it. So it's going to show it all or listen to it all. And I don't know how to mute it. Let's see. Let me try to figure this out really quick because I don't want to mute myself. Maybe I can, oops.
if he was
See?
involved, was this like premeditated? Was he like thinking he was going to do
Oh
something?
gosh, that's a bummer. Okay. How do I do this?
I don't know that I've ever taken the audio off of a video before. I'm
I
not
know,
sure.
and I know I can do it very quickly in my actual presentation, but I don't want to bump us off too much.
Okay.
Let me pull it up really fast, and I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to stop this share.
Not a problem at all.
There's always one thing that goes on.
Yeah.
This is
So
my
for
one
those of
hiccup.
you that have not introduced yourself yet, in the sidebar, please type your name and where you're joining us from today. It's always funny for me when I do videos and like when you want to have it. Oh, and I just realized I put 3 O's on Zoom. Hey, looking at one of my things, I'm like, oh, typo fun.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Where am I? Zoom. Okay, I'm going to share a different screen now, and then we don't have to listen to my crime podcast.
All right.
Okay, we're back. We'll just do it from here. It's fine. Okay,
Cool.
so when you're doing your site, you need to start with a plan and not just think about what you want it to look like and what it's going to be so pretty and it's going to be so nice, but it does nothing for you. So these are the three things I want you to think about when you're doing your site. What is your goal? Obviously, what do you want people to do? Do you want them to book? Do you want them to just inquire? Meaning like, do you want people to actually be able to like add to cart and book you, schedule you out, those types of things? Or do you just want them to inquire with a contact form? Do you want them to inquire with, HoneyBook, 17 Hats, Dipsada, whatever you're using? Think about that process. This is when I tell people to like think about your customer journey. So what do you want this experience to be like when somebody's booking with you? So that's the first thing you think about. Secondly, you're going to think about your audience. This is who you're talking to. So most of the time this is with balloons, it's the mom crowd who is booking for birthday parties or events, those types of things. But a lot of clients, especially recently, have been really wanting to focus on corporate clients. So talking to both of those is a little bit tricky. You kind of have to find this sweet spot of, showing your personality and speaking that way, but also being professional about it. But this will matter to like with your copy. This will matter to your pain points that you're talking to, because that's a big part of your website is you want to be talking through a pain point, meaning you're going to solve an issue for a customer. So instead of just saying, we have the best balloons in, California or Southern California or whatever, you want to be saying like, we take the stress out of planning a party, or we, whatever that looks like. Talk to that pain point. That is going to convert a lot more than just you saying, we have really great garlands or something like that. But speak to who you're talking to. So if that's a corporate client, maybe that's a page on your site that's specifically to corporate clients, or to the party side of things or wedding side of things, whatever your specialty is, talk to that audience member. And then your vibe, which isn't my favorite word in the world, but we're going to go with it. How do you want people to feel when they land on your site? So a lot of people actually in this industry worry about like, I really want to be colorful. I really like being colorful, but I still want to appeal to that corporate client crowd, or I don't like really being colorful, but I'm in balloons, so I feel like I should be colorful. This is totally up to you as far as branding goes and what you want to portray. There are definitely ways to portray fun and happiness and all the things that balloons bring while still having a neutral color palette. Like, it's not a deal breaker. It's more going to be Like, are you inviting people in? Does it feel very stiff? Does it feel like you're selling people all the time versus creating relationship with those people, solving issues with those people, those types of things. So these are kind of your like 3 more abstract pieces to start with and that you want to think about before you even start jumping into the actual website piece of it. Okay, next. These are the things that you'll need before you begin. So with my clients, what I'm working with, first piece of the process is always branding. So my big package that I mostly work with clients is called a website in a day. So what that looks like is we're going through and we're doing new branding. We're doing a full website, including copy and all that stuff done in a very short period of time. Essentially a day. It's more than a day. There's prep work and everything that goes into it, but the actual website build is 1 day. But this piece is super important, your branding. So if you are going to DIY and do it yourself, this is something that you want to think about and really work through before you're even jumping into a site. So for my clients, what branding looks like is a main logo, a secondary logo, and a submark. So that's 3 logos. Most times you may have 1 logo, and it doesn't always hit the mark everywhere you need it to. So essentially a main logo, a secondary logo, and a submark are all used in different ways, in different formats. So a main logo may be like really big and long, has the most information on it, those types of things. Those are good for like your website, homepage, like your header, those types of things, bigger areas. But then if you're gonna, be wearing it on a t-shirt or presenting at a conference or something like that where you need it smaller, you don't want to have to fit this big, huge, long logo into a really small space. People aren't going to be able to read it, and it's just not going to look as good. So that's where that secondary logo comes in place. It's usually a different format. It can fit in different things. It's used for different stuff. Your submark is always just like that quick view. It doesn't, people don't usually have to like read much. They just know it. Think of things like Nike, Adidas, Starbucks. All of those by a submark, essentially. So those are really good for social media when you have 2 seconds to be recognized. A business card, email signature, those types of things. Those are quick views that you just want to establish that brand identity. These are also things that are going to create trust. So we talked about that with the website. That's creating trust for your customer. Branding is also another piece that's where you might not think, but the more consistent you can be in your branding, the more consistent people are going to expect your work. So they are going to know this is what, Wild Blossom looks like, or this is what Mylar Magic looks like, and this is what I can expect from them. That is going to create somebody who wants to continue booking with you over and over and over again because they know what they're going to get versus every time it's just a crapshoot and we're not sure like how this is going to turn out. So your branding is that first step of that, is creating consistency, which eases the customer into knowing like consistency of their work is also top notch. That was a little bit of a tangent, but branding is very, very important. So this is where we start with my clients. We're getting your logos together, a color palette. A color palette is really important. This is something that's not just like, we use pink, blue, and green. Like that's not a color palette. Your color palette is actual hex codes, numbers, RGB numbers. You can see on here, these little things with the hashtags, those are hex codes. That's giving you a very specific code for that color. And then you want to be using that throughout your site, your marketing materials, your social media, all of that stuff to create consistency. So making sure you have those logos, you have a color palette, and then also your font family. So this is where a lot of people slide off the hill a little bit when it comes to branding, because we all love fonts. We all love, there's a million great ones out there, but your brand fonts are really important to stick to. So even though it's seasonal or you're going to want to do something different or change it up, we will pick your font family. This is obviously very, very important for your site. 3 fonts, 4 max. 4th would be like a fun script font or an accent font. It's going to relax your eyes. You don't want people to have to like figure out what's going on by a million different fonts on your page. But then within things like marketing materials or social media posts, your fonts are really important too, because especially when you have a quick look, you want people to be able to know exactly who that is based just on the overall aesthetic and look of what you're doing. So keeping those fonts consistent, not changing them up every chance you can get, or every chance there's a new trend out there. Stick to your brand fonts. Like I said, there's three. Typically, we would do a main font, which is your header, a subheader, which is like your navigation font, your button font, those types of things, and then a paragraph font, which is what it sounds like for all of your like text. Like I said, that fourth one is typically like a script font or an accent font. We can get into that more. You can ask specific questions about this if you want, but script fonts and like crazy, even like this font, to be honest, I wouldn't use a lot of that all over the place with all of the little like curly cues and stuff like that, because it's going to be harder to read or really understand. So those are kind of just like your accent pieces. The second part is images. This is a big one. Images. When you are getting ready for your website, this is the number one thing that you need to, number two, okay, branding is really, really important. Images, second importance. You need to have really good images for your website. If you want to compete with higher end, get corporate clients, get the luxury market, all of that stuff, you need to have high quality images. A lot of times people will come with iPhone images and all that stuff, which iPhone images are great these days. You know, they are pretty decent quality, but you also need to make sure that they are actually good quality. The lighting is well done. There's not random people making funny faces in the background, those types of things. This is your opportunity to sell your services visually. So I always try to recommend to my clients to do a brand shoot first. So the process would be, we would do your branding session first, which is getting all your logos in place. So for you, if you're going to DIY it, make sure you have your colors in place, you have your logos, you have your overall kind of like, I call it a mood board, but it's like that visual aspect of what you want your site to look like, your brand to look like. And then do the brand shoot after that, so that you can take images in your colors, in your brand colors. You're not like this super bright company and then all of your brand photos are in black. Like that doesn't make sense. So make sure you have that stuff set in place. Do a brand shoot. What that means is you are going to create an anchor for your site visually. So especially with balloons, there's a million different, you guys get to do all the fun parties and all that stuff. You get to have different themes and different colors and different all that, which is really great, but it can make your site feel really chaotic, really. So you want to have that branding shoot if possible. I know everybody's budget and timeline and all that is different, but to anchor the site and really to like calm it down. And so, having chaos versus the opposite of chaos, people are going to be more likely to buy and to use your services if they can really clearly understand what's going on and they're not really overwhelmed by everything. That's not saying you can't use your own images of your work. I want you to use images of your work. Those are really great for like a portfolio page or within your services page a little bit further. But a brand shoot can be really helpful to give very clear comparisons on different products because you're doing them all in the same colors palette and all clean and all professionally photographed, those types of things, so people can compare really easily. A big thing I hear with balloon artists and sites is like on their services page, or like people don't understand what this is or what that is. They don't know the difference between a column and a garland, or a garland and a crazy tower or something like that. So giving that visual representation that's just streamlined with a brand shoot, if possible, is really, really nice. You don't have to be in every single image of a brand shoot. That's the other thing I hear is, I don't want my face everywhere on the site. That's totally fine. You don't have to be. We do want you to be in some of the images because you want to create a personal connection with the person who's visiting the site. And put a face behind the name, put a face behind who they're spending their money with. But it doesn't have to be everywhere. So I'm going to skip ahead really quick to this one. So here's a couple like brand shoot examples of clients that we've worked with in the past, but these obviously all have people in them, but it's showcasing different things. It's showcasing the vibe of your site. It's showcasing your colors, your work, It's just giving a little bit of personality to the site. And then these types of images are going to be strewn throughout the site. And so people understand, what the aesthetic is, what the overall look is, your style, your work. You can display that, all of that within a brand shoot. But there's also other things that you can throw in here, like details of like the actual balloons, close-ups of the balloons, your tools that you work with. Like I said, different styles of installations, different styles of organic versus traditional, those types of things that are showcasing all those different things. So a brand shoot, I'm always going to be team brand shoot, but if anybody has any questions on that, or if you can, anything like that, please let me know. Yes, you can get away with not having a brand shoot. I'm not saying you have to. I am saying that if you would like a site that feels like all of those high-end sites that you really, really like, you probably need to do a brand shoot. It's going to tie it all together and make it look really well. If you can't, if you don't have the budget, just really make sure you have all of those high quality portfolio images. You make sure nothing's blurry. You make sure nothing's pixelated, all that stuff. Gather all those images in place. Third piece is your copy. So this is another piece that people get a little bit stuck in or scared of. Just keep it simple. Talk to your clients' pain points, like we talked about. Solve issues with your service. Don't just sell. Share your story. This is an important one. People want to know who you are, why you do what you do. You may not think it's important, but somebody might really connect with your story, and connect with why you want to serve or what you want to do with your services, those types of things. Communicate your services really clearly. So again, when I'm working with a client in that website in a day process, I have a website copy questionnaire that I have people fill out. This is to just get like the basics out of them. We're going through and helping create content out of that copy. But really, I always say this is a perfect time for you to look at your services and really understand what they are. Because as we all do as creative small business owners, we say yes to everything. We don't like to say no to anything, because we can do a lot of things and we can figure it out along the way or whatever it is. But on your site, you don't have to list everything that you can do or need to do. Try to get 3 to 4 categories of what you're doing. Make them really clear. That doesn't mean you can't offer other things. Just try to, again, ease that like chaotic vibe of your site. Everyone feels like they have to list everything on every page and every service that you've ever offered and every add-on that you could do and everything. That's kind of more your job when you're next steps with their client. You've already kind of got them in. They're a warm lead now. They want to be booking with you. They know what your general services are. Then you can start to talk about add-ons or what your specific install may look like. Or, most of the time you're working with custom things, right? So these aren't going to be covering all your bases, but you can have a category for custom work, and you can say, like, you can have a gallery of a bunch of custom work and say, inquire for more information or those types of things. My biggest piece of advice is just don't put everything that you could ever do on a page. People will just not understand any of it, and then you're answering more questions than you ended up answering. Make it easily digestible. That's what I was talking about. Think those bite-sized chunks. So don't go on and on and on about what that add-on looks like. Maybe you do have an add-on section, but it's 4 things, and you say, we can add on fresh flowers, we can add on mylar, fringe, and more. Keep it bite-sized, keep it people wanting more. And then you can have that conversation with them about what may work best for their install. And then making sure you understand, like, what's that quick contact or inquiry process look like? You don't want to make that feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know where I'm going, or you lose the person in this process where they don't know how to get a hold of you. So those are your main things you want to think about: your story, your pain points, your services, and your contact. Those are like the bread and butter. Okay, brand shoot. Any need to stop at this point, Joette? Okay. So here's your common website mistakes to avoid. Clutter. It's kind of what we were just talking about, but You don't have to include everything. This also goes for images too, and fonts, like I was talking about. Everyone wants to include every portfolio image that they've ever done, every install that they've ever done, because everything is amazing and everything is really cool, which I agree. Everything that you guys do is really, really amazing. And my poor, pathetic garland at my kids' birthday parties are not that great. But there's a place for those where it's speaking to what people want to hear. So if you have your portfolio images on a portfolio page, you're attracting the person who wants to see those portfolio images versus having them scattered everywhere and then they're not being seen anywhere. So making careful selections, only having a handful on each page, not plastering it everywhere where you're not really understanding what's going on or what things are. Your service details, we just talked about that. Font selection, I alluded to this earlier, but like a lot of the brand styles for in the balloon industry are very, scripty and fun and have all these cool fonts. But if you're putting them everywhere on your site, the hierarchy is going to be really confusing. So people aren't going to understand where this goes, where that goes. Use them sparingly, use them as accents. Then they're fun little cute details. They're not overwhelming to the eyes or the reader to not understand what you're talking about. And pages. So this is maybe a hot topic. You don't have to have a page for every single service that you provide. You don't need to have a page for columns. You don't need to have a page for garlands. You don't need to have a page for anything and everything that you're doing. A services page does great for that. If you have a specific service that you feel like needs a full page, go for it. I'm not telling you not to. I am telling you that the more pages that you have, the more chances you have for somebody to drop off your site and be very overwhelmed and not knowing what's going on. A lot of people would say having more pages is helpful in an SEO standpoint. I would argue with that a little bit. I'm not the end all be all SEO expert, but as you've, I'm sure, found, most clients don't know what your services are called. They don't know that it's a balloon column. They don't know that it's an organic Erland, stuff like that. So if they don't know what they're called, they're not going to be searching those specific things. So if you're creating a page with the intent of somebody landing on it with SEO, that's probably not the best way to do it. They're not going to be searching for that. They're more likely going to be searching really broad terms like balloon arch, even though they're not, that's a bad example because that's an actual service, but they're going to look for, like party balloons in Columbus or, event balloons, stuff like that. So think of it in terms of what your clients would be searching for. But yes, more pages can create more confusion. If you streamline it, have maybe more information on one page versus having 10 pages with a little bit of information on each, even though that may seem more intuitive, it's not. You're going to lose that customer the more pages that you have. Missing info. This is big. There's a lot of times where I will do like a little audit of somebody's site before we start to work together. And I say, I have no idea where you work, and that for balloons is really, really important, right? Like most of the time you're doing local business. I need to know what city you're in. I need to know what your service area is in. This will also cut down on bad inquiries that you're getting that aren't a fit for you. So make sure you're listing your service area. Your contact information is clear. Even if you do have a contact form or a lead form or something like that, it is always nice to have an email address, a phone number, something that people can get a hold of you quickly for a question, maybe, especially when you have things like installs or you're going to be on site for somebody. You want to be able to have a way that they can reach you in an emergency type situation, something like that. And social media, all of that stuff is always good too. The third one is not having testimonials on your site. So I know this is another step of the process for you to get testimonials from people, but it is really important to have that be a part of your process. Maybe that's part of your wrap-up process is asking for a quick testimonial. I would say quicker the better when you're working with somebody, like if you can do automations. I use HoneyBook. I love it. but you could set an automation to like send this email 3 days after the event or 1 day after the event. The quicker that you can do it, the better, because it's fresher in their mind and they're more likely to give a raving review, thinking about how lovely their party was or event was or anything like that. And then you're not tracking it down. I thought this stat was really interesting, but it says 92% of consumers read online reviews and testimonials when considering a purchase, and 72% say positive testimonials increase their trust in a business. So again, it's kind of that like, don't just take my word for it, like listen to all these clients. A lot of you have a lot of great testimonials, like on Google. If you don't have a free Google listing, get that set up today. But that's where I collect all of my testimonials. I send people there because it's kind of an extra little bump. But then you can always, then I would say pull like your top 5, 6 into your website of really great ones that speak to those pain points of like, they made this so easy. They were on time for everything, or like anything that is really like makes you stand out from a different service provider. Those are the ones you want to include on your website that are really important. So not having those is actually hurting you more than having them and not updating them. Just put some on there. Like even if they're from 5 years ago, have 3 to 6 on your site and it will make a difference. People will trust you a little bit quicker. Okay, this is the last one. So this is the download I put together. It kind of is like bite-sized chunks of what we just talked about this whole time, but it's a prep checklist. You can either scan that code or like I said, once you get this presentation, you can just click there. This will go through like all of that stuff with branding, all of your copy, all of that stuff. So when you are prepping for your site, you can kind of do this piece first. This is not meant to overwhelm you. Please don't let it. Like this is supposed to help you kind of just focus on what you need. And then you should be ready to go. And so instead of like jumping in, and if, like I said, if you're going to DIY your site or something like that, you're not getting stuck along that way. If you can do all this prep first, then you can go into the site and have everything you need right in front of you. Breeze through, even if you're customizing a template or doing anything like that, you can kind of just add as you go. And you don't have to stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. You can just set some time aside and you should have everything in place. I'll leave that up in case anybody needs it. But yeah, any questions? Or I know that it's a lot of information, but I'm happy to answer anything specific.
A lot of great information. And here's the thing that I have found over my 12 years as balloon coach now, this is our 12th year, is that so many people have a website and then they never go back and upgrade it. Or people wait too long to start a website and then they'll say, man, I wish I would have had that website forever ago. And so I know that the process can take some time because you may not have those photos, you may not have your brand and all those things set. So by downloading her checklist, it gives you a place to go to so that when you are ready to revamp, you have everything done first. Because I've talked to a lot of website developers over the last 12 years and that are working with balloon people. And for some reason, balloon artists will decide to make a change in the middle of their busiest season and not provide any of the content that the web person needs. So they can't read your mind. They can't access your web, your photos and everything without you giving them access to things. So by using this checklist and helping you get through those steps so that you will be prepared when it is time to do that refresh or when it's time to get that website going.
Yeah.
I think that was super crucial. And then the other thing I just want to throw out there is she had mentioned that you need to check out your website and do people know where you're located. That is like one of the number one things that I do with people is I go in and do audits from time to time. I'm like, hey, I have no idea where you service. And so that's why you're getting, contacts from the other side of the United States or another country because you're not letting people know where you're at. So those were awesome tips. So guys, any questions from what Courtney shared with us today? Are you currently stuck on something with your website or getting ready to build one and you have a clarifying question of the things that she shared? Feel free to open up your mic and ask or type it in if you need me to be your voice. One of the people watching says that they look at balloon websites often, and when they are looking, they can't see what the location is of where people are at.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
That
it's huge.
does.
And honestly, like it's one of the first things that we do even with SEO on a site is that is your basic coverage of SEO. You want to be having your location, what you do as part of your page titles, your meta descriptions, on your page. So it's not just visually, but it's the back end of that because then Google can serve to the right people when they're searching balloon artist near me or because there's a connection between those two things. So if Google knows where you are at, they can kind of connect those dots of like the near me, and you're going to be showing up way more often for that. So if you have that nowhere on your site, you're really doing yourself a disservice in a lot of different ways from Google to actual clients.
I see a hand up from Uplift Balloon. Do you want to open up your mic?
Yes. So I wanted to ask, what would you recommend for us to use if we want our clients to pay directly from our website? So what other application or what other provider that would be like easy for us to set up for them to pay online?
Would it be a like after you've chatted with them and put
Yes.
together a proposal?
Yes.
So not just like forward facing on your site where they don't have to talk to you and just click and buy like a shop.
Right. So after the inquiry and they receive the invoice and the contract, if there's a place there, or will I have to link my CRM to it so that way it talks to it?
Yeah, it would be through a CRM tool. So any
Okay.
type of payment you're using, yeah, Honeybook, 17 Hats, you Square, anything that you're doing invoices through, that's where you would take payment, unless you're doing a shop, and then that would be different.
That was okay. And if I am doing a shop, what would you recommend we use?
I like Shopify. It's really, really
Okay.
robust. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but it really does have the best, different qualities in it and all that.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah.
All right, so Tamika is sharing this was very helpful. She's in the process of rebranding her current landing page to a full website and is launching in May 1st. So thank you, Courtney.
Nice. Good. I'm glad.
All
Can
right,
I,
so while people,
you asked
go ahead.
about, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
You had
yeah.
talked about doing a branding shoot to
Mhm.
like kind of help set the tone of the website. What has been the best, since you've worked with so many artists, what has been the best shots or
Mhm.
the best or have like when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a good idea. That'd be great for this page or this page. What have been some of the best? It could be like general topics too,
Yeah.
shots that you've seen.
Yeah, so that's a really good question because a lot of times with brand shoots, my first advice is try not, I know everyone's budget is different, but try not to book a photographer who's only going to give you 10 to 20 images or like you have to choose that. With a website, having more is always better. So, having book that person who's going to over deliver. But there's a couple things. One, you always want to ask your photographer to shoot horizontal as well. A lot of people shoot vertically, and that's just, what they like, which is fine. But for a website, there's a lot of hero images. There's a lot of like images that you want to fill up your screen. And quality wise, a horizontal image is going to work just way better that way. So that's something I always add onto somebody's shot list. Obviously ones with you in it, but the detail shots are always really nice. So close up of balloons to get like that color, but also have the texture of balloons. Bringing in anything and everything that you work with. So pumps and deflated balloons and confetti and tassels and all of those things that may feel mundane to you, and then kind of styling them up and making them cute. Thinking of how so a lot of those types of images are going to be used more as like backgrounds or filler images or something like that. So not everything has to be like a money shot of an actual product. Having those details are actually really, really helpful too, because you're going to have your money shots in those services areas or whatever, but you also have to think about like the headers of the contact page, your footers, your, backgrounds of testimonials, those types of things. So having kind of like a little bit more like plain images are good. There was one other thing I was going to say. What was it? Oh, and then having some images that are like off-centered or have blank spaces on them. So having a photographer shoot like balloons on the left side with a blank wall on the right side. Leaving areas for text is really nice. So then you can have those big, everybody loves like the big hero image at the top of the page of a site, especially for a home page. But then it can get kind of tricky to put text over that and be reading it, especially with balloons, because there is so much texture. So shooting with that in mind. So like a brand shoot is important, but you have to think of it as a brand shoot for a website, not just for content, because that's totally different. Like you can do a social media content shoot and shoot everything that you want and not have to think about anything with text or width or anything like that. So if you can kind of think through like what a website looks like, that is helpful versus just saying like, what's cute? Like, what's a cute picture? So the text ones and horizontal, those are like really key though, and details.
Those are great tips. The other
Thank you.
thing,
That was incredible. Yeah, definitely ones I didn't think about.
Yeah, I actually have like a freebie on my site, I think. That is a like a brand shoot checklist that has like a handful of stuff. I have one that I just haven't added yet that's specific to balloon artists. I'll get that up too, and I'll let Joette know when it's live
Oh.
too. But brand shoot is always overwhelming for people. But I have like when I work with clients, I will send them like a Pinterest board and a list of kind of things to bring to their photographer just to keep in mind. So I can share that too.
that is awesome. And for our Balloon Boss Mastermind members, if you go into our member area, we did one where a couple of our members had shared their experiences through brand shoots to make it feel a little less scary. And Tabitha Miller was one of the people. And so she showed the poses and the things that she did that came out really great for her to use. So that's another resource for those of you who are in Mastermind to be able to pull that up and look at it.
I
one
actually
of the
want to
que-
interrupt and mention that right now that you mentioned Tabitha, I actually ran into her pictures and I'm just like, they are incredible. So yes, I didn't know that was that was her, but amazing work, Courtney.
Oh, that wasn't me. I don't think it was me, but
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Tabitha worked with Tabitha didn't do it through Courtney, but it's a training in our Balloon Boss Mastermind program.
Oh, awesome. Well, that was awesome, Joette.
Okay. Cool.
I was like,
And then
I don't want to take credit, but I will.
yeah, go ahead, Courtney, with this part, and then I've got two other questions that have popped up for
No,
you.
yeah, I just was switching the slides just in case
No, you're fine.
anybody wants to jump on my site or see anything else. Or if you're
So-
listening to all of this and feeling like it's like not up your alley to DIY your site or do anything like that. Like I said, that website in a day is definitely my most popular. It's the site option that I'm offering this year. But we will do all of that and kind of hold your hand through the whole process and give you worksheets and all that stuff. So we will prep with you essentially so that you're ready to go.
I love it. So go to CourtneyLynette.com/services for more information about her offerings. And then also you can always set up a discovery call with her and definitely hang out with her on Instagram at Courtney Lynette. So I appreciate you so much sharing this wonderful information. I'm going to ask the questions that I'm seeing on the side, which is when you were talking about Shopify, someone's asking, is Squarespace okay? They had Shopify, but it didn't work out very well for them.
Yeah, I mean, your platform's totally up to you. I design on Showit is my platform of choice. Showit does not have a native e-commerce option, which is a bummer. But the best integration with it is Shopify. So that's usually why I recommend Shopify. But if you have Squarespace, they do have e-commerce. And yeah, I've heard that it works well for some people. It's definitely everything's in one spot. So it's kind of nice. You can update it all. But yeah, anything that has an e-commerce is usually fine.
So one of our folks is saying, I've redone my website 3 times and I still don't get any inquiries from there. Wondering if her SEO is the problem or if the website quality, because she has such a mix of the photos that are mainly her designs from events that she's done. Are there different platforms that you've heard do not work well with SEO? Like at one point I was told that if people are doing it like on a Wix site or some of those other platform builders, that's going to hurt their SEO if they're not working on a platform that's intended for the enhanced SEO.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. And I'm not here to start any rumors about any platforms. I do know, like, if you're not taking advantage of the SEO tools that a lot of these platforms have, you're doing yourself a disservice, essentially. So, most sites like you know Wix or Squarespace or stuff, they have sections for SEO, basics, basically like your page titles. These are like not your actual visual page titles, but like the SEO backend of page titles and meta descriptions. Those are really important for SEO, and it's an easy way you can just jump in and make those changes. Um, Obviously, there's a difference between like basic SEO, which would be like, for me, I'm in Orange County, so I could say, you know, Orange County web designer. I probably wouldn't do that for me because I serve, you know, the whole country. But for you guys who are more local, you would pick maybe your city, or your area, and balloons or events, whatever you think people are searching more for, and include those in your page titles and your meta descriptions, and within your page at some point. It's usually best to be in an H1 tag on your page. Again, it's kind of getting technical, but so it may be, I'm happy, whoever said that question, if you want to email me your site and I can take just like a quick peek at it and audit it for a second and just tell you my quick thoughts on it, I'm happy to. I would say updating regularly, meaning like redoing your site really often, is not going to help you at all. It's not bad to redo your site, but you will always see a dip after a site is like relaunched because you're going to lose links. You're going to, just like the data on the back end is going to change a little bit. So like a lot of people, because like I said, I design and show it, like if people are moving from Squarespace to show it, I will always like warn, like you will see a dip, but it's not going to be forever. That's just always how it goes. It's basically Google just trying to figure out who you are again and trying to map your site and all of that. So if you're updating it a ton, that might be hurting you actually. The inquiry, it might just be the user experience on your site of like, it's just too tricky to get to where they're booking you, or they're not finding the information they need to book. But yeah, I mean, it's always worth looking into the SEO side of things and making sure that your keywords are in there, or working with an SEO expert. I always warn people against like, please don't work with people who say they will make your SEO skyrocket in one day. That's not how
Yeah.
SEO works. It's a long game. You know, you need like 3 months minimum to start seeing a difference in SEO work. Like, don't touch anything after it's done for 3 months, to actually see if something's working. So yeah. But yeah, platforms, I don't think that there are anything like that's hurting you necessarily. Like, please don't avoid a platform just because of it. Just look into the capabilities on that platform that you might not be utilizing, because maybe it's harder to find. Maybe that's what people are saying, but yeah, there should always be an opportunity to add that in there.
Great tips. I think we've got one more question from Yanni, and then we'll do a wrap for Ask Anything QA and let you go on with your day. Go ahead, Yanni.
Actually, you can give the main question to someone else if there's another one. I can hold my question.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has a question? I'm not seeing any pop up, but if you do, feel free to open up your mic and ask, or type into the chat if you're not able to speak. All right. So just a quick thing as we wrap up, I'm Joette with ballooncoach.com. So if this is your first time being on a Lunch and Learn with us, if you would like help and other information in the balloon industry, you can check out ballooncoach.com. You can click on Get Started Here to be a part of our Balloon Boss Mastermind online training. We also have our hands-on training where this summer I am traveling from Florida to the West Coast and back. So you can check out all of the awesome places that we're going to be at. And then if you are looking for other virtual training, we will have our Balloon Boss Summit in November virtual this year for 2025. So I wanted to make sure you know that there's other resources that you can go to help you connect with other people like Courtney that can help you with all the different aspects of your balloon business. So Courtney, thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you watching this as a replay, when you have other questions, email me, joette@ballooncoach.com. In the replay will be the slide deck from Courtney, how to get a hold of her. And for those of you who are on live with me, I'll turn off the recording so that you can ask questions. Courtney, any wrap up thing that you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, but thank you for having me. This has been great. I hope it was helpful. I know sites can feel overwhelming, but if there is any questions that somebody wants to ask or maybe chat, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or email or whatever, and I'm happy to give a little more personal advice if you need it.
Great, wonderful, valuable information today. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So a great question came up asking, should we put our pricing on our website? Courtney, what do you say?
Okay, like I'm saying, this is my personal preference. It is fine what you do. I believe, yes, that you should put your pricing on your website. That doesn't mean you have to put every nitty-gritty piece of your pricing on your website, but things like starting at are really, really helpful. Again, I know you're doing so much custom work, so this may feel like weird to have to think through what your pricing are, but it's going to cut down on your inquiries that are not a fit. So wasting your time, essentially. We don't want any of that. And it's going to give people an idea of what their budget should be to work with you. So instead of them coming in late in the game and not having the budget for you anymore, thinking that you're only going to cost $200 for this really big, beautiful install, they can get an idea of at least your starting at price, put that into their budget of their event. And then once they're like ready to book you, they're not sticker shocked by anything. So yeah, if you can do starting at prices, do it. I would say most clients have more success doing that and more quality leads doing that versus just dealing with I'm sure with balloons too, and what I hear, like people have all kinds of ideas of what balloons cost, and they think they can get a lot more for what they want to pay than they actually can. And I know all the prices and like costs of everything is skyrocketing right now and harder. So it is very important to be clear up front to get that lead that makes sense for you.
And then just to add on that, two of the $1 million companies that I know and talk with often, both of them have pricing on their website and they're do over $1 million a year in sales. So if it works for them, it can work for you. And especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's going to help because, as Courtney said, you're not going to waste all that time going back and forth with people who only have $50 to spend and they think something that costs $1,000 is only $100. So it helps to find that. So Courtney, thanks for sharing that. I greatly appreciate it.